The bell does not ring this morning. You notice that before anything else every morning of your life, the church bell has marked the hour, and today there is only silence, and the silence feels louder than any sound. You step outside your door, the lane is empty, smoke rises from only 2 chimneys, where yesterday there were a dozen. You are a peasant in a small farming village in England, and the year is 1349. You work this strip of land your family has worked for generations, planting barley, tending a few sheep, paying your dues to the lord of the manor. Your world has always been small, the fields, the church, the well, the faces you have known since birth. That world is disappearing house by house. 3 weeks ago, a trader passed through from the port town, coughing, feverish, already dying without knowing it. Within days, the miller's family fell ill, then the blacksmith, then half the cottages along the lane. You have heard the word now spoken in frightened whispers, the pestilence, the great mortality. You do not know it as the bubonic plague, carried by fleas living on black rats. But you know its marks, swollen lumps in the armpit and groin, dark blotches spreading under the skin, a fever that breaks a person down within days. You walk past the Henderson's cottage, the door hangs open. No one has come to close it, because no one is left who is well enough to try. Your own family is smaller than it was a month ago. Your younger sister complained of a headache 3 nights past. By morning, she could not stand. By the second night she was gone, and you buried her yourself, because the priest who once handled such things is dead, and the gravedigger is dead, and the man who dug graves after him is also dead. You dug the hole in a field at the edge of the village alongside 6 others from your street. There was no bell, no mass, no procession, just you, a shovel, and the cold spring ground. Historians would later estimate that the Black Death killed between 30 and 60% of Europe's population between 1347 and 1351. In some villages like yours, the toll was even higher because close quarters, shared wells, and constant contact with livestock made the disease spread faster than anyone could understand. You do not know about germ theory, no one alive does. The physicians in the nearest town still believe the sickness travels through bad air, what they call miasma, and some burn herbs to purify it. Others whip themselves through the streets, believing this is God's punishment and that suffering might turn away his anger. You have seen a group of these flagellants pass through, bloodied and chanting, and you found no comfort in it, only more fear. What you do know from watching is smaller and more practical. The households that shut their doors and refused visitors seemed to lose fewer people. The families who kept their distance from the sick, even from their own kin, sometimes survived when others did not. You have started doing the same, though it feels like a betrayal every time you turn someone away. Yesterday, your neighbor begged you to help carry her husband to the church. You stood in your doorway and said no. You watched her drag him alone down the lane, and you have not stopped thinking about it since. This is the stakes now, not just staying alive, but deciding who you are willing to become in order to do it. Do you keep your humanity and risk your life helping others, or do you protect yourself and your remaining family, and carry that choice with you for the rest of your days? There is no clean answer, and no one in your village pretends there is one. The manor lord has already fled to his other estate, taking his household with him, hoping distance is protection. The fields around you are only half tended now because there are not enough hands left to work them. This single fact will change your world in ways you cannot yet imagine. Within a generation, the shortage of laborers will shift the balance of power between peasants and lords. Survivors of your class will begin demanding wages for their work, will begin refusing to till fields for free, will begin leaving manors that treat them poorly for ones that treat them better. Some historians consider this one of the quiet turning points that eventually helped erode the rigid feudal system across Europe. But you do not know any of that yet. Right now, you only know grief and exhaustion and the strange quiet of a village with too few voices left to fill it. A week passes, the number of new deaths slows, not because the sickness has softened, but because there are simply fewer people left for it to take. You stand again at the edge of the burial field, looking at the rows of fresh earth, more graves than the village has ever needed in a single season. You count the names in your head, neighbors, cousins, your sister, the miller who used to wave at you every morning. Spring keeps arriving anyway. The barley you planted before the sickness came still pushes up green through the soil, indifferent to everything that has happened around it. You kneel down and touch the young stalks. They do not know what the village has lost. They simply grow because that is what living things do, even after unimaginable loss. You decide, kneeling there, that you will keep tending this field, not because the fear is gone, but because someone has to, and because the alternative is letting the land go, as empty as the lane behind you. Centuries later, researchers studying skeletal remains and medieval records, including work by scientists at institutions like the Max Planck Institute, would trace the origins of this pandemic to a strain of Yersinia pestis that likely emerged in Central Asia before spreading along trade routes into Europe. They would map how it moved from port to port, village to village, following exactly the paths that traders and travelers once walked without knowing what they carried. But on this morning in your village, none of that knowledge exists yet. There's only the silence where the bell used to be, and the green barley pushing up through the dirt, and you, still standing, still breathing, deciding what kind of person you will choose to be in the world that is left. The bell will ring again one day, someone will rebuild what was lost, but it will never again ring for the world you knew before this spring.